Afternoon punters, here we are back again, bit more Punting Melbourne style, RaceTrack Ralphy.
Hello Potts.
Obviously cock a hoop.
It's you, since you've got on the Demons bandwagon, Potts. There we are just flying, so
there you go.
Very hard to keep the lid on it. Big Friday night game this week against the Swannies.
That is a huge game, isn't it?
Huge, well
they're all huge games, that's a big one.
Well, particularly if you don't live in Victoria, the thing about Friday night footy is just, if you win, you're the heroes for the weekend. If you lose, you're the dills. And the spotlight isn't just that night with the huge TV ratings, but it's the next Saturday morning. It starts off all the discussions. Yeah, the club hasn't deserved a spot in the big spotlight, but now it has, and it does, and I'm excited.
Absolutely, it's good to watch. All the AFL games are good to watch right now. It's good
Absolutely.
stuff.
What's happening with you, brother?
Okay, so I just want everyone. It's been building up this. I'm sure people have probably worked it out, but. Just for the record, I want to make a proper announcement that this will be the last week after I think it's 4 years, I'm pretty sure it's 4 years, or 3 or 4 years, of selling my sets through both initially the Punter Show and then one to follow, that arrangement's coming to an end. And so anyone that wants my set from next Saturday onwards, they'll have to buy it through my website. Now, so the options to buy it under the same prices as currently there, they might be a little bit cheaper. There on my website for the casual purchaser. For those that want to enter into something more permanent, just please send me a contact through my website, and we can arrange something. But for now, the services will stay similar to have been. So full sets for Saturday and Wednesday, and then the sort of 5-6 day a week service with just what has been going out as a text message as tips, selections and staking. It's going to be an email service via my website, and it's going to have more detail on it. So I've been doing that method for a couple of weeks with some existing subscribers, and the feedback's been really good. So it's just some additional information, some additional selections that I'm not at that time I'm sending the message. They might not be bets, but I'm saying if they get out to a certain price, that it's up to you, but you can back them if you want. So
you, me, and Jerry Seinfeld, master of your own domain.
Yes, yes, that's it.
So Darren Potter Race Assessments, is that?
Darren Potter raceassessments.com.au,
and
of course RaceTrack Ralphy, and on the YouTube channel, the videos that Ralph and I do, and the track reports that I do, have got links to both of our websites there. So if people go to they're watching this via the YouTube, they can click on those links to find us.
That's it. But in the meantime, we're just going to do what we normally do and have a bit of a chat and punting related racing issues, not racing related.
Racing general, and in part 2 we'll discuss Flemington, which was a lot of fun. It was good to get.
Did you have fun too?
Yes, it was a track that when I walked the track, I was extremely confident how it was going to play. That I targeted particular runners on that card, and it's one of those situations that, for me, it's the most rewarding situation. Is A, you not only find a lot of the winners, but B, I back all of them at the right prices. So I bet really strongly at the right prices, and the prices I took were, and my subscribers would have taken, were significantly, most of them were double the starting prices. So
we'll talk about the races itself in part 2.
Yeah.
Because we spoke about the psychology last week of a bad day. Does it affect you, the psychology on a good day, that you've had a bad day the week before? Because, it's backs to the wall stuff, isn't it, if we have a bad day? I feel. So it's, you on one hand you want to say it's a silo, every race is unique, every race meeting's unique, but on the other hand you're going to say, well, it's time to get it right.
I suppose there is some underlying pressure there, but I mean, for me in my process, by the time I was doing the form for Flemington, I'd put Moonee Valley well and truly behind me. Yep. So I did a lot of the form before I went out and walked the track, and then once I'd come back from the track and I had a very clear picture how the track was going to play, it was a meeting I was extremely confident about, because it was a particular type of runner that was going to work.
So I think, I guess, and to further question and discussion point here, but if after a bad day at Moonee Valley where the track didn't race well, you think, well, not necessarily our process was wrong, and we both found a horse at the Johnny Settlers that didn't turn up on the day. So you think, well, let's have a real good look at our processes. Were our processes wrong, or did things happen outside of our control? We discussed this last week. And then once I called it detox in the newsletter I sent out. this is what I did, this is what happened, there it is, finished. Now let's look forward and put the gloves back on, the mouth guard in, and let's have a swing.
That's absolutely right. Now, I reviewed the Mini Valley meeting in detail, and in the end, I was happy with the staking plan as it was. It just, randomness comes into play. That's the way racing is.
So I think the biggest punting point, in fact I know the biggest punting point for the week for customers, was Racing New South Wales almost fight with Betfair. They've decided to put the fees up across the board, but of most significance is they're saying that Betfair can't be treated any differently to any other corporate bookmaker. I'll get the quotes in a sec. What's your overview of this situation?
Well, I think war's got to be the right word. It seems to me like from Racing New South Wales' point of view, they're trying to do everything they can to cripple Betfair and to drive Betfair out of the market. Yeah, that's their approach. You can't. It's hard to read it any other way. From a broad perspective, I just think it's a continuation of the lack of foresight by the administrators of the industry. When you compare it to poker and what's happened there, and the
as in the media. Poker machines with the World Series of Poker.
Yeah, the way poker, you look back 20 years ago, I suppose, a decade or two ago, and poker was seen as dark, dingy, seedy, and now it's the top players they're celebrities, and it gets people engaged in it. Like it gets that young audience engaged, and racing hasn't yet developed a method to engage the younger audience, and that's racing's big problem. And if all you keep doing is try and bring more money out of the existing pie, which is what that's putting up the fees, that's what that does. It's saying there's the size of the pie, let's try and squeeze more out of it. All you're going to do, that's going to lead to less engagement with the people that you really want to engage in. So
to take your poker analogy further, and this is where I don't think people have really understood it, because when they hear people, obviously I'm vocal on Twitter, it suits my MO, Dan, and other punters, and then there'll be passionate racing people, often breeders, often people in that side of the caper, and they'll say, you punters are clinical, you don't care about the animal, yada yada, that side of things. And why should it be to the exclusion of the promotion of the wonderful animal and the courage of the jockeys and the skill of the trainers? We don't say any of that, but to use the poker analogy, the way racing's promoted, it would be like making the star of the Jack of Spades.
Yeah, that's right.
Or the three of clubs. Now, because obviously there's nothing to promote from poker, you can't promote a card, it's only about the punting. So that they don't have that headspace. Similarly in Hong Kong, they don't have the headspace of the breeding industry.
Yeah. What they found when they dug underneath the surface of poker, they found that there was all these guys that played the game that were really good at it.
Yeah.
That were interesting people.
Yes.
They were thinkers.
Yeah.
They were a bit different. A lot of them were pretty quirky, and they allowed the audience to see how that player played certain hands and all that sort of thing. And racing has never reached that bridge. And the difference is that at some point poker realised, forget our image. Our image doesn't really matter. Racing is obsessed with its image. The journalists, like if you listen to Jury Duty or whatever it's called this morning, the verdict, whatever they call these days, that Andrew Twaits was on it. Andrew was trying to talk about wagering, and the journalists on the show.
Why was he on it?
Well, because he's got a background with Betfair.
Yep.
And with Racing Victoria, so you could see all parts of the puzzle.
And is he lobbying for Crown at the moment? And I'm not saying this is smart ass, but I read, he's a good man, Andrew, but I read that he was part of the lobby group for Crown Bet in the Financial Review recently. I'm
not quite sure if he had any particular agenda he was driving it over, but he was trying to talk about wagering and what racing's going to do, and he kept getting dragged away from that, and he was getting no engagement from the other, so from...
Who else?
From...
Cherry Picker?
Cherry Picker and Michael Felgate.
Yeah.
Because they're too worried about racing's image, because if you obsess about racing's image, that means you are trying to engage with people that are never ever going to be engaged with racing. They have no interest in it. Whereas what poker realised, we need to engage with the people that will be interested in us. And people that want a broader, more society-based issue, I'll give you one. Okay, think about churches. There's no group that's had a worse, more tarnished image in the last several decades than the traditional church. But the new people coming underneath that in the sphere of religion and church,
Right.
like the Hillsongs and all the other groups, went the hell with that. We're just going to find a way to engage with all the young people.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
We're going to go directly to them.
Yeah.
The people that hate us, we're not going to worry about them. We couldn't care less what they say about us. We're just going to go directly to the people we want to engage with. And they have absolutely, like, they're flourishing. We're talking billion-dollar industries. They have their own TV channels.
Because you're part of the team.
It's all about music. All these people that are engaged, these young people that are engaged with it, actually give these mobs a percentage of their earnings. Like,
that's right. And with the argument here when it comes to the coverage of the sport, what we're saying about the making stars of the Ace of Spades, we're not saying that people aren't interested in the Mackay Davis, Black Caviars, Michelle Paynes, and the proof being that every time there's a story about Michelle Payne, and if you look at most 5 red articles, it's there, so it mightn't interest us, but it interests the general public. But they're not going to be the ones driving turnover. And when they talk about the great stories of racing from, was it Damon Runyon and since, and then come the Spring Carnival, our best riders like Martin Flanagan or John Harms or whoever start covering the Spring Carnival for a couple of weeks. Mate, Neil Kearney does these fantastic colour pieces on TV. That's for 2 weeks of the year. The argument that that's how you should cover racing for 52 weeks of the year, who gives a shit? I don't get emotional if a trainer's had a setback and then wins. No, I get emotional if I back the winner, as you do, as most people do. They don't talk to punters, and today I don't listen to anything or read anything. Or watch it. I do have a flick through the paper. And personality clashes aside, guys, look at Matty Stewart's articles. I think there was 5 pieces, but not one of them related to a punter. It was about the Strangles in Darley. It was about who they take over next. It was about whether they're going to get someone from Royal Ascot over for the championships. None of it's really punting related. And I'm not saying that shouldn't be covered, and I'm sure you're not saying it either. What I'm saying is there needs to be a coverage for punters. Yeah. There's no punter. There's no coverage at all for punters.
Well, it's good
for us.
The young guy out there in his 20s, girl or guy, okay, that's mathematically minded, for instance, or is a potential customer for racing.
Yeah.
Couldn't care less about any of that stuff.
No.
Not the slightest bit of interest. But if you give them some insight into the chess game that racing is, and the interest levels of what happens underneath with wagering and tactics in races and all that sort of stuff, and if you find a vehicle to engage them in that, they would be interested in that. Like they're interested in how Phil Hellmuth deals with Ace King if someone else goes all in. You know what I mean? Like that, it's the same situation because you're targeting that type of person. You're not targeting someone that's really interested in other things and will never get involved in wagering.
And where it all relates back to Peter V'landys and Racing New South Wales argument against Betfair here is that they're making arguments that customers don't believe.
Yeah.
Are they?
Absolutely.
So they all sit around a table, they all agree with each other, clearly surrounded by a few yes men along the way, but people who don't genuinely understand the wagering dynamics. And what was really interesting, Potts, in the Twitter side of things, I think Peter V'landys did his 3rd tweet about here's my press release about Racing New South Wales. Now for years, and this is any jurisdiction, but particularly Melbourne and Sydney, they've been able to get their media people who they dominate, and to their media people, fair enough to them too, because they've got fair mouths to feed, so they go, righto, and it's all unchallenged.
Yeah.
But as soon as they put it on Twitter,
it gets challenged.
and not just by the anonymous, by lots of people, smart punters, big punters, and you think, hang on, Amazon's coming. Yeah. Amazon's coming in the retail sphere. You reckon Harvey Norman's not going to have to change, Jerry Harvey, significant breeder, he won't be changing his business model? They all will. Whereas in the sphere when it comes to betting, this is what must happen. Well, it's a borderless society, guys, and you are going to drive turnover either away from Sydney and or overseas, and it's just madness.
Let's keep this conversation going, but we'll continue it over to part 2, Ralphie.